Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another Rangers transfer special, if you like. Of course, a number of names have been linked with moves to Rangers this month. The latest being the 19-year-old Ecuadorian midfielder Oscar Zambrano. And I'm delighted to say we're joined on the line to give us a little bit more information about this young lad, South American football expert Nathan Joyce. Nathan, how's it going?
Yeah, very well, thank you. We said just before we came online, transfer window seems to have moved into second gear after a slow start. So yeah, I'm delighted to be here and definitely share some insight into Zambrano for you guys.
Yeah, it's great having you on. Nathan, incidentally, folks, he's CEO and founder of the Copa Club, a great football content South American site. I'd urge you all to go and check it out. And you've wrote a great article on Zambrano on there, Nathan. Can you tell us, can you just give us a lowdown on him? I know a number of clubs in England are sniffing about him as well. He's quite a talent, this young lad.
Yeah, it was quite surprising to see the first sort of links with him were Luton Town and Bournemouth. I think his sights will probably be a lot higher in a few years. But as we are seeing with a lot of South American players coming across to the UK, it's these clubs outside of the top 4, 5, 6 are almost used as guinea pigs, shall we say, before they eventually take that big move. Obviously, Moses Caicedo being the most obvious one. And Oscar Zambrano may well be the next. He is highly regarded in Ecuador. Burst onto the scene a couple of years ago, trickled through in terms of his game time for Quito over the last 2 seasons. He's played just shy of 50 games, but more or less here and there of 20 minutes, half an hour. But he was called up to the recent Under-20 World Cup, and he only had 4 games, and Ecuador were expected to go a lot further than what they did. Got knocked out to South Korea in the first knockout stage 3-2. However, in those 4 games, he really shined. And he's a sort of old school defensive midfielder, number 6. But what I really like about him and what really stands out is his ability to break the lines with his passes in terms of inside the fullbacks, inside the centre halves at times, only taking 2 or 3 touches. He never dawdles on the ball, always looking to progress the ball first. So yeah, you won't get goals from him. You won't really get assists, but he's the assist before the assist, so to speak.
Yeah, interesting. So I guess he had a good World Cup at the Under-20 tournament. I'd imagine that's brought him to the attention of a number of sides. Do you expect him to move in this window?
Oh, that's a tricky question. He's sort of almost ready to take that plunge, and I think by going to the Under-20 World Cup, what I've said before when I've spoken about a lot of young lads who go back into their own age category, once they dominate there and really show a certain level of confidence, it almost shows that they're ready to take that next step. I mean, yes, he's been playing bit parts for Quito, who have managed him very carefully. I think they're obviously very keen to cash in on him at a certain point. 5.5 million, the rumoured fee, is a nice figure for them, and it's probably an even better figure for a European side if he does go that way. Do I expect him to move in January? I mean, with the amount of interest, like Luton and Bournemouth have been sniffing around him for a very long time, and obviously Rangers have now come into the fold. There's no smoke without fire, so to speak. And look, it's the perfect time. We forget January is like a chess match when it comes to these transfer windows, but the South American season has finished. It's almost like their summer break. So it's the perfect time for them to sort of reevaluate where they are. And he's had a number of games under his belt now. Like, he's got the attention on him. So it wouldn't be a surprise. And personally, I'd love to see him come over to Europe and see what he's got. And the amount of talk coming out of Ecuador from contacts who have spoken to comparing him to Moses Caicedo, who, yes, hasn't had the best season in a Chelsea shirt, but we've seen what he's capable of in a Brighton one over the last couple of seasons. So one to get very excited about. Where he's going, unfortunately, I do not have the answer to
that. And of course, playing in the Ecuadorian league, do you think he's got the physicality to make that transition and move over, whether that be the English Premier League or the Scottish Premiership, which is pretty physical? I know Jose Cifuentes has found it a tad difficult adjusting to life in Scotland, but do you think he's got maybe the temperament and the physicality to excel there?
He's definitely got the maturity. We've seen that a number of times, especially during that Under-20 World Cup, like the confidence and just the calmness in possession. I think, like I said, once back in their own age category, players who look head and shoulders above that will always go on and excel. But moving across to, like, I think a lot of people forget this when transfers come across, they get excited about, especially when it's a South American player who expected to have a lot of flair and come over. But there's a lot off the pitch, which they need to get right. New language, colder weather, especially the further north they go. There's a lot to sort of learn and adapt, and it will take time. But he's only 19. He can be molded. When it comes to physicality, like, there isn't too much issues there. But as I've just said, he's 19. Like, going in a proper gym plan and away from this, that's things which can happen, right? And expected if he definitely if he comes across like a Premier League club, for example, you'd expect that to happen. So I wouldn't necessarily worry about that. Yes, he'll probably have a few hard tackles to hit him first, whilst the other teams let him know about welcome to Scotland if it is the route he takes. But however, he's so calm and assured in possession, and the passes and the balls he sees, he doesn't dawdle on the ball. And I think anyone who's trying to hit him or let him know, welcome him to Scotland, for example, I think he's got the footballing intelligence to play around that. So yes, it may take him a while to settle, like as it does with a lot of South Americans who come across to Europe and especially the Premier League. But give him time. He looks like he's got all the attributes to be a real star.
Yeah. In terms of potential fee, Nathan, how much do you think Quito will be looking for him?
The rumoured fee seems to be around 5.5 million. And now I've seen a few reports saying there's a few sort of, I'm not sure how to phrase this in terms of, like, there's something within his contract where potentially, like, Quito are looking for him to pay a certain part. Like, a lot of money was potentially going to his agent. I think it was about 10-15%. I'm not sure how true that is, but for the fee, around 5.5 million. I mean, for a Premier League club, it's absolutely nothing, and it'll be fantastic business. We've seen this before with, say, Moses Caicedo. I've used him, but he's the prime example, comparing him to a DM from Ecuador. In 2 or 3 years' time, if his transition goes the way it does, like, there's no reason why that won't have a zero on the end of it. So anyone who moves quickly here for a fee around £5.5 million will be making a huge profit on him in the next 2 or 3 years. I'm convinced of it.
Yeah. Is there any, I know he's just a young lad, 19 years of age. Is there any weaknesses perhaps in his game or any areas that he should be looking to work on?
For me, I've gone back over old footage, and there isn't really anything there which is glaringly obvious to me. I mean, the fact that people can look and say, oh, he's had 46 appearances and it's been in the Ecuadorian league may not be the most positive, and 20-30 minutes off the bench, so he hasn't had that run consistently within the side. But the side have won the Sudamericana, the side have also just won the Ecuadorian league, so, like, he's sort of been drip fed carefully and sensibly for his age into that team. And even coming in 20-30 minutes for any team sometimes can be really hard to make an impact, but he's caught the eye during those sort of, like, short snippets of games. So I wouldn't say there's a pressing concern from where I'm sat. It seems to be, do I dare say, the real deal in terms of everything, in terms of the attributes you'd want from a defensive midfielder. So potentially a lack of games. I know that sounds a little bit weird because he's had nearly 50 appearances, but he hasn't had that run consistently. But I think with any player, right, coming back from an injury or a new team or anything like that, going into a new environment where they're going to play 90 minutes week in, week out, or build into the team slowly, he's only going to get better. So if he's delivering this displays already by just playing in and out of the team, I expect that to only get a little bit better. So no major weaknesses from my end anyway.
Yeah, and as a number 6, you say he's best suited. Is he that sort of destroyer type? Does he like a challenge or two, Nathan?
He likes a challenge, but he positions himself really carefully in terms of he always sets himself up to win the ball back. So we see that within a lot of his play, whether it's high press, that's something, an attribute I really like of his. For example, Ecuador played Fiji, so obviously not the most difficult opponent, but when he played against them, he was almost transitioning to an attacking midfield role to win the ball back, but then straight away releasing his strikers or releasing his wingers. So he does that in defense as well. He never goes to ground unless he's getting really frustrated or like he has to make that tackle. But where he's trying to marshal a play, he's always facing the right way into, okay, what's my next step? Once I win the ball back, who am I going to be looking to play it to? And I think that really shows, like, high intelligence of a defensive midfielder rather than just aimlessly kicking someone or putting in a tackle to win the crowd over. So yeah, I know fans sometimes want that, but he seems to want to progress the ball at the pitch, which is really intelligent for his age as well.
Yeah, interesting. Certainly want to keep an eye on it. A few comments come in. First of all, Scott says, "What, Nathan? What's the Twitter handle, pal, for is it the Copa Club? Isn't it on Twitter?"
Yeah, it's at the Copper Club, plain and simple. We also have a podcast as well, and we produce magazines. And Oscar Zambrano was in our recent magazine as a one to watch. So we covered 12, 14 players for 2024, and he was one of our highest ranked. So yeah, be sure to check that out as well.
Yeah, it's a cracking read, folks. To go and check it out. Neil McLean says, "Afternoon, guys. Love the potential signing chat." Yes, we certainly do. It's that month where we all look forward to potential new signings. There's been several names linked with the club. Rangers have been quick to deny those reports that were untrue, but this is the latest one I'm sure you'll have seen this morning. Scott also with a point says, "Is there anyone else you think Rangers should be looking at? Any up-and-comers or a decent striker over there in South America? Anyone that sort of comes to mind at all that Rangers or any other club should be thinking about acquiring?"
Yeah, 100%. There's loads of untouched gems over in South America. But you know what? I'm going to put a teaser out there and say they're all on the website. They're all within the magazine. They're all on the podcast, which is bi-weekly. We just launched our new series. There's been a few striker recommendations in there. So yeah, I'm not going to throw names out of the cuff and make out Rangers are going to be linked with them. I don't want that to happen to me, but do check out the content. There's plenty there.
Yeah, there you go, folks. And I wanted to ask you about, while we've got you on, Nathan, Jose Cifuentes did join Rangers last summer, of course, from the MLS. Hasn't gone quite that well for him, I've got to say. I mean, it must be difficult. He was playing regularly over there in America, moving over to Scotland, never really had a pre-season, but big things were expected of him. What's the feeling over there, I mean, in South America of Jose? Is there a feeling that he might move on, or that he's maybe just finding it a bit difficult to transition to European football? Is there still big things expected of him?
It's always a tricky one because you can turn around and say, like, this player is amazing in South America, coming across, like, that should be replicated. But what I always try to say, and I said at the start of the podcast, there's a lot which goes on behind the scenes. Fans only see 90 minutes every week and expect those players to deliver, and so they should. But at the end of the day, they are humans or players coming across from completely different environments. I know MLS is sort of it will become more of a stepping stone in Europe. A lot of Argentinian lads are moving across to the MLS and then they're coming across to Europe almost. What I will say, if we're going back to Zambrano a little bit, Ecuadorian football is almost on the same level, if not overtaking Argentinian football at the moment. So there's been a huge demise with look, we probably don't have time to go into that, but hopefully that helps for the Zambrano links a little bit. But look, it's always an adjustment period. You never know exactly how long it's going to take or if these players do. So I'm always there to say, look, they are humans there first, which we sometimes do forget. But look, bear with him, give him time, and see how it goes. But to go from where he has, and especially playing in the MLS, to the moving across to Scotland, it's a tall order. There's a big ask mentally as well as physically. So look, hopefully everything, fingers crossed, he can deliver for you.
Yeah, not to mention the weather as well, which I'm sure is a bit of...
I try to avoid that one, but it is obvious,
Yeah, from Los Angeles to Glasgow, it's certainly a bit of a culture shock. But it's been brilliant having you on, Nathan. Thank you very much for that insight. It's been great, so thank you.
No problem at all. Thanks for having me.
There you go, folks. A bit of insight into Rangers linked midfielder Oscar Zambrano. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and we'll speak to you a little later on. Bye for now.